Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going somewhere that usually smells like sweat, old athletic tape, and, well, humidity.
Please tell me we aren't just reminiscing about high school gym class.
Not quite. We are taking a trip to the locker room, but specifically we're looking at the business, the psychology, and honestly the surprising architecture of the locker room.
Okay, that sounds a bit better.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating case study today involving the Howard University Volleyball team and a company called Legends Custom Lockers.
It is a great case study. On the surface, it looks like this really simple renovation story, right? Like, team gets new lockers.
Right.
But when you actually dig into the project notes and the breakdown from the lead designer there, Grace Parker, it's actually a masterclass in decision-making.
It really is. It's a story about economics, material science, and, frankly, high-stakes project management.
I would go even further. I'd say this is a perfect example of value engineering.
Value engineering. It usually sounds like corporate speak for we ran out of money and bought the cheap stuff.
Right. It often feels that way, I know.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was the exact opposite. It wasn't about being cheap. It was about being surgical.
Right.
The central conflict here is one I think everyone listening can relate to, whether you're renovating a kitchen or planning a wedding or managing a massive corporate software rollout.
It's the classic dilemma. You have champagne taste, you want that sleek division, high gloss look, but you're working with a very real world beer budget.
Right. And usually when those two things collide, the result is just disappointment. You either compromise on the vision or you blow the budget and get fired.
But that didn't happen here. And that's what we're going to unpack. We're going to look at how Grace Parker and the team at Legends Custom Lockers navigated this whole thing.
Because they moved from those old clunky metal lockers to something totally modern.
Right.
And they did it by being incredibly smart about where they spent their money.
Yeah, we're going to look at the materials science, specifically the war between two acronyms, TFL and phenolic. And we're going to look at the project management side, which honestly is where the real miracle happened. It really is.
Okay, let's set the scene first. Howard University Volleyball. Before this project started, what was the status quo?
Well, according to the project notes, they were basically living in the past. They were dealing with the standard old metal lockers.
Ugh, I can hear that sound instantly. You know that hollow clang when you shut the door?
Yeah, the dents, the paint chipping off. It just feels, I don't know, it feels temporary. It's cold. It's loud.
It definitely doesn't scream elite division athletes.
No, definitely not. And context is huge here. In college sports right now, there is an absolute arms race for facilities.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're recruiting top talent, you cannot show them a rusty metal box. The environment tells the athlete exactly how much the program values them.
So Howard knew this. And when they approached Legends, they weren't coming in with a blank check or some fantasy wish list.
No, they were very practical.
Right. They wanted to move on from metal. They wanted a space that felt modern, intentional, and more reflective of their program's identity. Intentional is such a key word there. They didn't just want storage, they wanted an environment. And the sources mentioned they actually had a very specific inspiration in mind.
They did, yeah. They pointed to a previous project Legends had done for the Eastern Michigan University EMU football team. Legends had installed these gray laminate lockers for them.
And what was the vibe of those EMU lockers?
Really smooth, modern, strong, but not over-designed. It's a very clean aesthetic.
Yeah.
Howard saw that and basically said, we want that energy.
Okay, so they have the vision, they have the inspiration, but here comes the reality check.
The budget.
The budget. As the source material says, they weren't coming in with some huge over-the-top wish list, but they still had hard numbers they had to hit.
Right.
And this is where we run into our first major technical hurdle.
Material constraint. Let's talk about phenolic, because I feel like if you aren't in construction or cabinetry, this sounds like a sci-fi villain.
It kind of does.
What is phenolic and why was it a problem for Howard?
So, in the world of high-end athletic lockers, phenolic is often considered the absolute gold standard. It is a resin-impregnated material.
Resin-impregnated.
Yeah, basically layers of craft paper are saturated with phenolic resin and then fused together under immense heat and pressure.
So it becomes incredibly dense.
Incredibly. It's waterproof, it's impact resistant, it doesn't even support bacteria growth.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you're building a locker room for a football team that's going to come in covered in mud, or if you need to literally power wash the room frequently, phenolic is an incredible material. It is the tank of locker materials.
It sounds perfect. So what's the issue?
The price tag. It is highly premium, and you pay heavily for that premium. When Grace Parker and her team at Legends looked at the math for Howard Phenolic, just wasn't going to make sense.
The numbers didn't add up.
Exactly. If they tried to replicate that EMU look using solid phenolic, the math just didn't work.
So this is that moment of tension. You want the look, but the material that usually provides that look is just out of reach. In a typical scenario, this is where the client sighs and just goes back to metal mockers.
Right. Or they cut the quantity, or they cut corners somewhere else. This is the whole paint it black strategy, just make the cheap stuff look moody.
Right, right.
But this is where the expertise of the vendor really came into play. Grace Parker didn't say no. She proposed a pivot.
This is phase 2 of our breakdown, the pivot. What did they propose instead?
They proposed TFL. That stands for thermally fused laminate applied onto a durable core.
Okay, thermally fused laminate. That sounds fancy, but I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
When I hear laminate, I instantly think of cheap flat pack furniture where the corners start peeling off after like 6 months. Is that what we were talking about?
That is the most common misconception, and honestly, it's the biggest hurdle for TFL. But no, this isn't just a sticker slapped on some sawdust. TFL has come a long, long way.
Break it down for us. What makes it different?
It's right in the name, thermally fused. It's a decorative paper that is fused directly to a substrate, usually a high-density particle board or MDF.
Okay.
But it happens under severe heat and pressure, like 300 to 500 pounds per square inch. The resin in the paper actually melts and bonds perfectly with the wood fibers of the board.
Oh, so it's not glued on, it actually becomes one solid piece.
Exactly. It becomes integral to the surface. It is very durable, highly scratch resistant, and the textures they can do now are just incredible. You can get wood grains that actually feel like real wood.
But the most important part for Howard?
Crucially, it is significantly more affordable than solid phenolic.
So the pitch from Grace Parker was essentially, you can have the EMU gray look, you can have the modern aesthetic, but if we use TFL instead of phenolic, we can actually afford to build it.
Precisely. And the key here is that it wasn't a downgrade in terms of the actual user experience.
Why not, though? I mean, it's still not a tank.
Because Howard is a volleyball team. It's an indoor sport. It's relatively clean compared to, say, football or rugby. The environment is humidity controlled. Ah, I see.
They didn't need a waterproof, bulletproof material. They needed something durable, yes, but TFL was perfectly suited for that specific environment.
I love that distinction. It's all about context. You don't need a tank to drive to the grocery store.
Exactly. And by recognizing that Howard didn't need the phenolic tank, they totally unlocked the project. They realized that TFL was the sedan that looked just as good as the tank, but cost half as much to operate. And this leads us to what I think is the most exciting part of this whole case study, the domino effect. Because saving money on the core material didn't just mean coming in under budget. It meant they could do other stuff.
Yes, this is the value engineering payoff because they went with the TFL core. They reallocated those resources. They didn't just pocket the savings. They reinvested them into the human elements of the locker room.
Let's list these out because this is what took the room from just storage to a real experience. What did they add?
First, they added custom cushion seating.
Which, let's be honest, if you've just played 5 sets of volleyball sitting on a hard metal bench versus a custom cushion, that matters.
It's a huge difference. Second, they added full-color logos and program graphics throughout the entire space.
That is big for identity.
Huge. And finally, they included an ADA bench to ensure the room was accessible and actually worked for everyone.
I want to quote Grace Parker here, because I think she nails why this strategy worked. She said they originally weren't sure if the logos or custom graphics were even possible, but once we worked through the material options, we found space to make it happen.
That's the aha moment right there. Think about that. The client was almost ready to sacrifice their own identity, the logos, the branding, just to afford the lockers themselves.
That's tragic. The whole point of a team locker room is identity.
Exactly. If they had stubbornly stuck to the idea that quality only means phenolic, they might have gotten the lockers, but they would have been these plain gray boxes.
Yeah.
No logos, no cushions, no soul.
Right. The actual vibe of the room, the pride, the team spirit, that came specifically because they were frugal about the structure.
It's a paradox, right? By spending less on the bones, the parts nobody really notices as long as they work, they increase the value of the skin, which is what the athletes actually see and feel every single day.
I think that's such a powerful lesson for literally any project.
Yeah.
Don't spend your whole budget on the plumbing and leave nothing for the art on the walls.
Or don't buy the most expensive server rack if it means you can't afford the software that runs on it. It applies everywhere.
Okay, so the design is locked in. TFL, custom graphics, cushions, it looks great on paper. But now you actually have to build the thing. And according to the timeline in the source, they didn't have much breathing room at all.
No, they didn't. The source says the project started in the spring and had to be installed and ready by late summer for the season.
In construction terms, that is a blink of an eye. You have manufacturing lead times, shipping, installation.
And usually the biggest killer of time is approvals.
We've all heard the adage, fast, good, cheap pick two.
Right. If you want it fast and good, it won't be cheap.
Yeah.
If you want it good and cheap, it won't be fast.
But Legends claims they didn't cut corners. They say 0 corners cut. So how do they cheat the triangle? How do they get fast, good, and on budget?
This brings us to phase 4, alignment and trust. This project wasn't just a success of engineering, it was a success of communication.
The source mentions the speed of trust.
Yes. Grace Parker highlights something very specific about the client, Howard University. She says every approval came back, same day, sometimes within the hour.
Wow, same day, within the hour.
In this industry, that is almost completely unheard of.
Usually you send a rendering or a material sample and it just sits on a committee's desk for 2 weeks. Then you get feedback, then you revise.
And that lag time kills schedules. It's the black hole of productivity. But Howard was dialed in. There was, as the source puts it, no guessing, no scrambling.
Everything was just mapped out.
Exactly. Locker by locker layouts, dimension sign-offs. Because Howard trusted Legends to guide them, and Legends trusted Howard to make prompt decisions, they eliminated all that friction.
It sounds like they treated the approval process with the same urgency as the game itself.
They really did. And that responsiveness allowed Legends to move fast without rushing the actual build. They weren't scrambling at the end because they hadn't wasted any time at the beginning.
It's so interesting how soft skills, like literally just answering an email quickly, can result in hard results like a finished locker room.
Absolutely. The source explicitly says that kind of turnaround doesn't happen unless everyone stays aligned. The lesson here for the listener is if you are the client, whether you are hiring an architect or a web designer, your speed of response is directly tied to the success of the project. You can't sit on approvals and then demand the contractor hurry up.
Trust definitely goes both ways. Howard trusted Legends on the TFL material, and Legends trusted Howard to keep the momentum going.
And that momentum creates energy. When a vendor sees a client who is on the ball, they work harder, they want to deliver, it becomes a true partnership rather than just a transaction.
So we get to late summer, installation happens. What is the final verdict here? Phase 5.
The result is a locker room that is sharp, functional, and proud.
And what about the athletes?
The source says they are genuinely excited to walk into it every day. And that makes total sense. It's not just a place to put their bag anymore. With those logos and that custom seating, it's a home base.
And there's a bit of a ripple effect happening at Howard too, really.
There is. Success breeds interest. The source mentions that the softball program saw what happened with volleyball, and they are now looking at upgrades of their own.
It sets a whole new standard.
It does, and it proves the concept. Legends' philosophy here: solve problems, build smart, deliver something that works. It validates that you don't need to blow the budget to get a high-end result.
I really like that phrase, build smart. It sums up the whole TFL versus phenolic debate. Smart building isn't just buying the most robust thing, it's buying the appropriate thing.
And that's exactly what Legends delivered. They didn't upsell Howard on a material they couldn't afford. They found a solution that allowed Howard to afford the things that actually mattered.
So let's bring this all together. We started with a problem. Old metal lockers, high aspirations, tight budget. We saw the pivot, switching from expensive phenolic to smart TFL.
Right.
We saw the payoff, using those savings for cushions and graphics, and we saw the execution, lightning-fast approvals leading to on-time delivery.
It's a very complete case study. It hits on design, finance, and management all at once.
So what is the one big thing you want our listener to take away from this? If they forget everything else about thermal fused laminate 5 minutes from now, what should stick?
I think the key takeaway is that constraints are not roadblocks. They are creative prompts.
Ooh, I like that. Say more about that.
Howard's budget constraint didn't ruin the project, it actually saved it. It forced them to look at TFL, which freed up the budget for the graphics, which ultimately made the room better than if they had just bought plain phenolic lockers. The constraint forced the better design.
So having less money actually led to more creativity.
In this case, yes. It forced them to prioritize identity over indestructibility, and for a team locker room, identity is always more valuable.
And my takeaway is purely on the human side. You can have the best plans in the world, but if you don't answer your email, you're going to miss your deadline.
Practical and painfully true.
That same-day approval stat from Grace Parker is going to stick with me. It's a reminder that being a good client is active work. It creates a winning streak feeling for the whole project team.
It creates momentum. When a vendor sees you are engaged, they work harder for you. Grace mentioned it proves that you can get great results without dragging it out. That's a direct result of that client behavior.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a challenge. Look at the project on your desk right now. Maybe you're renovating a home office, maybe you're planning a wedding, or maybe you're launching a product at work.
Here comes the provocative question.
You know it. Ask yourself, where are you assuming you need phenolic? Where are you defaulting to the most expensive standard option because you think that's what quality looks like?
And conversely, where's your TFL option? What is the alternative that is 90% as good functionally, but half the price that would actually allow you to spend that money on the details that bring you joy?
Like maybe you don't need the marble countertops in the laundry room. Maybe the quartz looks just as good, and that savings gets you the high-end washer and dryer you actually want.
Exactly. Find your TFL, find your graphics, don't let the budget kill the vibe. Let it shape the strategy.
And please, for the love of project managers everywhere,
Answer your emails.
answer your emails. That is all for this deep dive into the Howard University Volleyball Locker Room upgrade. A huge thanks to the source material from Legends Custom Lockers for giving us a peek behind the curtain.
It was a real pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious.